She might want to circle back on this one. Former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki slamming Republicans for taking a stand against the woke nonsense that plagues our country, and is encouraging Democrats to actually embrace it.
For Republicans, wokeness is public enemy number one. By the sound of it, there is simply no greater threat to American liberty. Whether or not they actually believe it, they clearly think it's a winning message ahead of 2024. The Republican crusade against wokeness may not be as potent of a campaign issue as they may hope. And here's why. Most people don't think of the term woke in the way that Republicans would like them to. It's simply not the boogeyman they'd have you believe.
Okay, Dana, Psaki mentioned a poll saying that 56% of Americans agree with a positive definition of woke. But she failed to mention was that 53% of Americans oppose critical race theory, 61% oppose gender-neutral pronouns. So the woke issues she thinks are good are actually driving Americans away.
It reminds me of the poll when they say, do you think Medicare for all is a good idea? And like 80% of people say, yeah. Like, well, that would mean that you have to pay X or Y. And they're like, oh, wait, no, we're not for that. So that poll can be misleading. I do think it's interesting. One, that was Jen Psaki's first show, a debut, and to make this much news on your debut cable show on a weekend is pretty good. So she's on a good track there, and if she wants that kind of punch, she's going to try to have to bring that every week. One of the things about woke is, can you explain it to your mom? Think about that. And I remember when President Trump was running, and it was before he won in 2016, he used to get standing ovations initially when he would say, political correctness is ruining our country. And everybody that was clapping knew exactly what he meant. But it's sort of like the Supreme Court definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. So the Democrats want to get you in an argument where you're having to define wokeism as if the Webster's dictionary is defining it. And that's not what it is. It could be a feeling. It could be a sense. And I wonder if Republicans or conservatives are going to have to define it more. She could be right. I don't know. This will be tested. But the other poll numbers you showed are important. The one thing I don't see any candidate really doing right now is talking about a plan for pro-growth economic means. And that's what Americans are pretty desperately looking for.
You know, just before the midterms, Jesse, Psaki told the Democrats to shift their messaging on crime, and it worked. And is a woke culture what she should be telling them to focus on?
Yeah, please, libs, focus on woke. I dare you. I mean, look what happened to Lori Lightfoot, black lesbian mayor out there, hated white reporters, tore down the Columbus statue. She got slaughtered. Youngkin wiped the floor with McAuliffe in Virginia over the woke school stuff. DeSantis is cruising on that woke wave. That stupid DA in San Francisco, he went down hard on woke. If you guys want to go on to battleground states and start talking about intersectionality and non-binary, patriarchy, mumbo-jumbo, have at it. Blanket the airwaves with it. Talk about sex change for kindergartners. I love it. Tell us how the founders were all racist white men. Do more of that. Not to mention the fact that all of Joe Biden's woke staff are all going down in flames. If you look at the binder, if you look at Kamala, how about Mayor Pete, or even the ones he doesn't choose? The binder out there grabbing bags and dressing up like women. These guys are all going down hard, and if you guys want to run that, run it all you want.
Well, between critical race theory and Black Lives Matter, the organization, I mean, is she focusing on the wrong stuff?
It's not the message that I would be conveying, for sure. Listen, there are people who feel that way because the truth of the matter is Democrats have performed well in the last two elections, and those are just facts. Donald Trump should have won re-election if you look at history. He did not. And Democrats performed very well in the 2022 midterms, and Kevin McCarthy only has a 3-seat majority, and one of them is George Santos. So she's right insofar as that, but voters, to Dana's point, are going to show up and they're going to be voting for policies, things that they can look at and say, I know that this party represents me on these issues that matter. The economy, a woman's right to choose is definitely one of them. And the battle over what woke actually means, it means two completely different things to each party, and everyone is comfortable with that. But for these governors, Glenn Youngkin is trying out the national stage. He's got to make sure that he talks about CRT, but talks about a lot more stuff. And DeSantis, it's dropping in the polls, frankly, I think, because he talks about things that feel very niche and very Florida. And no one in Pennsylvania, a union worker, cares about drag queen story hour or whatever he's talking about.
I don't know. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, that's a great point. It seems like when the left or Democrats invent things and then it goes too far, they suddenly don't care about it. We never said to fund the police. Yeah, you did. Oh, drag queen story hour for kids? That wasn't our idea. But then it was. Yeah, it's the Republicans who wanted that. Wokeism is something that went too far. Might have had an idea there, but it went too far. And when it happens, just like Antifa, it's like, oh, it's not real. It's just an idea. Parents were deemed domestic terrorists. Then they said they weren't, but they did say that. This all started because somebody made a fool out of themselves when they couldn't define what wokeism was. And she was bringing up that you should be able to say in 15 seconds. You could say in 10 seconds. It's a destructive filter that pits groups against each other by saying one is oppressed and one is the oppressor. It requires compulsory education, and there is no forgiveness. That's what wokeism is. That means no matter what you do, you can't do better in the eyes of wokeism because it's a regressive punishment. This is why she herself, by the definition of wokeism, is a racist, because she got a new job as a white woman, and probably took a job from a black woman, perhaps a black lesbian woman, because she has that. She is a racist. And also, the other thing that bothers me most about her, I mentioned this before, woke adults in the media got successful before they got woke. So what she's doing is she's selling a bad idea, a terrible tool to kids who should be learning how to be successful instead of learning to demand things before they make a first impression, right? When somebody comes up to you and tells you their pronouns, that's before they make a first impression. I ain't hiring you. She's a Pied Piper for failures. She is already successful. She can be woke the same way everybody else can be woke who's on Twitter with a blue check. But all the young people doing this, they aren't going to be hired because they're insufferable beasts.
Okay, and the fastest is up next.